Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I think has caught a lot of people's interest: Battlefield Portal, a mode or part of Battlefield 2042 that was revealed last week and is really something that has excited most of the community and has of course also made me and a lot of Star Wars fans and Battlefront fans think, what would happen if we had something like this in Star Wars Battlefront? Whether they would have added it to Battlefront 2 or in a new game. At this point, it's not really something I think is gonna happen, at least not anytime soon, but I would still like to discuss the idea, because it just, reading through that article and seeing the trailer just made me kind of instantly translate all that to Star Wars in my head and be like, if this was existed in Battlefront 2, this game would still be alive and thriving. Yep, it still kind of is though, to be honest. I mean, it has tons of players still playing the game, but it would just have fresh content all the time because the opportunities would be endless. So first of all, if you don't know what Battlefield Portal is, it's basically, I guess you could call it private matches on steroids or something, because you can create your very own scenarios where you control pretty much everything. First of all, they brought back some maps and factions and stuff from some old Battlefield games, so it's not just gonna be the new modern Battlefield 2042, but old vehicles, old maps. They remade some for some classic Battlefield games. So for instance, for Battlefront, they could have remade some maps from Battlefront 1 and 2, the originals, or taken in some more maps from Battlefront 2015, and so on. And then when you actually create these scenarios, you can change the factions to be whatever you want. You could have stormtroopers versus clones. And the mobility, you can disable health regeneration, sprinting, disable the HUD. You can choose the arsenal, of course, so what kind of weapons you can use, vehicles, characters, what scale it's gonna be, 50 versus 10, 1 versus 2. And there's also a whole like logic editor, which I think basically allows you to create your very own modes, where you can decide that if you capture this command post, this is gonna happen, or if you do that, another thing is gonna happen, and so on. So it's very close to modding, I would say. It's not gonna be as free as modding, but it's a very good step in terms of creating it, making it accessible for anyone who wants to create a custom game mode. And ever since they released this, all I could think of was, first of all, I'm really excited to try it out. I am going to play a lot of Battlefield 2042 here on the channel, probably mostly during live streams, and when I create my own modes in Battlefield Portal and then host it so I can play with you guys, but I couldn't help to think about what this could have been in the Star Wars universe. Both Battlefront 2 in particular, but also if they made a new Battlefront or new Star Wars game that had a similar opportunity, basically. Something called Battlefront Portal, I don't know. Because with both having Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2 with tons of content, and then having the classic games as well, although they are really old, but remaking some maps from there wouldn't be impossible for a mode like this. So just think about the endless opportunities if this was ever added to Battlefront 2. Imagine the servers that would be up right now running with the custom game modes, and every month, you could rotate that. I could host events. It would be so much fun, and just some of the quick ideas I had, which is probably just scratching the surface. Imagine, for instance, we could create a server on Kashyyyk treetops, or maybe taking that original Bespin platforms map from the original Battlefront game from 2004, and we would have 10 versus 10 jetpack troopers with unlimited repulsor cannons. No blasters, nothing. All you gotta do is knock everyone off the side on Kashyyyk or Bespin. That's the kind of thing that would just add so much replayability and value to this game, because one problem if you play Battlefront 2 right now, or most games like this, is that there is gonna be a lot of content in there, but you're only gonna use like 5% of them. Sure, there's plenty of heroes you'll use, maps, but in terms of all the star cards, blasters, abilities, you only use a very limited amount of them. I mean, honestly, I use 1, maybe 2 blasters on each class. The rest of them I don't touch. Same goes for the star cards. So if you force people to use all of them, then it would actually be fun. Because it's not because the blasters or the star cards are boring that we don't use them, it's because they're just not the best ones. But if everyone had the same ones, it's a completely different question. Another thing I could think of, I would love to have a gun game that like games like Call of Duty or Counter-Strike has, but in Battlefront 2. Imagine how much fun that would be. You start off with, I don't know, the E11, work yourself up, and then let's say the last 2 kills would be something like the Ewok bow, and then lastly you would have to kill someone with the commando droid sword. You know, you could have these really crazy combinations. The content is there, the abilities, the characters, the maps, the weapons, everything in the game. But if we could use that freely to create our own scenarios, it would just be tenfold the amount of content and playtime that we currently have in the game. So I understand why they do this for Battlefield 2042. I just wish we had something like this for Star Wars. Some other ideas I had, something that I did play back actually, for I think it was Counter-Strike 1.6, a mod where you only have 1 HP, but you only have 1 bullet in the chamber. So you can fire, then you gotta reload for a couple of seconds and then fire. So it was really fun to try and be accurate. So it could be something similar here. You have 1 HP and you have a blaster that overheats with 1 shot, and then you gotta cool it down and boom. That could also be really fun, and some other things. You know, a lot of us hate strafe running, but obviously some of you do like strafe running people as well. So let's make a strafe running mode where you'll have 1 team with 10 ships, and on the other side you will have 10 people on the ground on, let's say, crate with the bunkers blocked out, so there's no cover, but the full focus will be on shooting down these ships. And you can have Leia, the ISB agents, fully kitted Ion Heavy, all the different characters that can lock on to these ships, and all you would do is strafe run or shoot down ships. You'll focus only on that. Like, I'm not trying to bring up really well balanced and canon modes here, but just something that would be fun, something that you don't experience when you play the game normally. Other thing you could do, Force Power Mania, all Force wielders but with no lightsabers and fast cooldowns on the Force powers. And then pick a map of your choice where you can get pushed down. I mean, like half the maps you can do that, but I think like Bespin again or Kashyyyk, Treetops or anything like that could work really well. The opportunities are just really endless. Or let's say another one that I would like to do. Ewoks versus Darth Vader and Palpatine. Let's say we have 10 Ewoks on one side, Darth Vader and Palpatine on the other side. Because playing with Ewoks is really fun. It's obviously very limited because it's only on 1 faction. You have to actually get the battle points to use it, and then sometimes you get taken out really quickly. It's not the same kind of Ewoks as an Ewok hunt, obviously, but I really have so much fun using that bow and arrow. So if we had a mode dedicated to that, it doesn't have to be against Palpatine or Vader. It could just be 10 troopers versus 10 Ewoks. I'd be fine with that as well. But there are just endless of combinations that would be so much fun. Another one that popped up just now, Camino. Let's do a battle between stormtroopers and clones. Maybe something that could have actually happened in the Star Wars universe, like a little clone rebellion. I mean, we've seen hints of that in Bad Batch. But again, that's the thing with a mode like this. It doesn't have to be canon. It doesn't have to be a real scenario. And the question then is, would Lucasfilm ever allow something like this? There are a couple of things that I think is worth noting here. In the beginning, I remember they were like, no, Vader and Anakin cannot be at the same time. But then they completely opened up to that, and they were fine with that. And then we have Galaxy of Heroes, where you will have any type of characters facing off against each other. And the way that they motivate that is that it's basically a holographic game, or a hologram, so it's not like the characters are actually facing off, but they're holograms of the characters. And you could always go around doing something like that, but in the end it does feel like Lucasfilm are getting a little bit more free and opening up with this kind of stuff. If it's a story and stuff, yes, it's going to be 100% controlled, every little detail and how it looks, what they say, what the story is. But for something like this, where you have an editor and you can create anything really, I think they would be pretty open for something like this. I mean, if they were allowed to do something like this, they could literally make a dedicated game to it. My current stand on the whole debate on whether or not we're gonna get a Battlefront 3, a new Battlefront game, are DICE gonna do that after Battlefield 2042, is that I still am very, very hesitant to them even making another Battlefront. I think that might never happen, at least not within the next 3, 4 or 5 years even, especially now that the license is opening up to more studios. And I'm not sure if any other studio or publisher would dare to take up the Battlefront brand, because it's quite a lot to live up to. In that case, it would make more sense to make other Star Wars games. But even if that's the case, I don't care if it's not called Battlefront. Make it a game where you can create your own scenarios with like a shooter-ish. They could basically reuse everything in Battlefront 2, Battlefront 1, polish that up, release it as maybe a free game or a $40 game or something like that, and let us create our own service, our own scenarios. But yeah, what am I getting at with this video? simply the potential that something like this has. And I'm very glad that they are making it for Battlefield, and I'm sure it's going to have a big success, which will then open up their eyes to potentially bringing that to other franchises, and I would hope that Star Wars will be the next one. And you could reuse the gameplay that we already have in Battlefront 2 to create so many thousands of hours of more fun gameplay that would be still feel fresh despite it being the same characters, same maps, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would love to hear in the comments below what you guys think about a potential Battlefront Portal, and also what would you create? If you create your own scenarios or own games based off the previous Battlefront games, or Battlefront 2 in particular, what would you want to see? I would love to hear. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.